I'm standing here with a motorcycle and an airplane. What could these possibly have in common? It's actually more than you think. Both of these are iconic forms. This is the new Indian motorcycle, brought back to life this year by Polaris Industries. This is a Cubcrafter's Cub. It is also a recreation of the iconic Piper Cub, the 1930s staple of American aviation. What's interesting about these two, and the reason we brought them together, is they're such iconic shapes and such familiar forms, but they're underpinned by completely new technology. This plays into a lot of things that we as Americans want. We love the old, but we want the new. This is the perfect combination of these two ideas. We as Americans are suckers for traditional forms. The Indian fender, so traditional. The shape of the Cub, absolutely evocative of America in a simpler time, an easier time to understand. Things were more clear to us, and the shapes just absolutely take us back. And yet, we don't want to live with old vehicles necessarily. These are both brand new, and they're better for it. They start every time. There's a warranty. They won't leak, stuff won't fall off. You don't have to call some guy in Alaska to get a part. It's absolutely the best combination of something that looks old, but is new. Indian's history is compelling. Started in 1901, it was a huge competitor for Harley-Davidson in the pre-war era. It was known for its engineering prowess, quality of construction, and distinctive styling. Today, under the revival by Polaris, Indian has 3 models in the lineup. 2 that are traditional cruisers and 1 that's a touring cruiser, or as we like to call it, a bagger. Indian's revival is timely. There's scores of riders out there who want something as an alternative to Harley-Davidson. As good as Harleys are, they want something different. That's what Indian is trying to provide. A modern American motorcycle with classic styling underpinned by high technology. This new Indian Chief feels terrific. That's a 111 cubic inch engine under there, and feels every cube of that when you roll it on. Company says it's got 119 pound-feet of torque, and I don't think they're fooling around with that at all. It really feels like it on the road. The Chief is aimed at the traditional cruiser crowd. It's got slightly different geometry. It steers a little slower, but it's very, very familiar. It's got that loping sensation. It goes down the road with no effort at all. What really impresses me about the Chief is the suspension quality, the chassis dynamics. They're all very, very good. They're very modern. This is a bike that looks long and low and stable, and it is, but it doesn't give up anything in terms of dynamics to get there. Of course, on gravelly roads, the thing you want the most is ABS. The Chief has really strong brakes. They have decent feel. They're a little wooden, but boy, they're powerful, and the ABS works very, very well. Overall, what impresses about the Chief is it's a very traditional shape and a traditional sound, yet it's also got a level of sophistication that you just don't expect. It's well above the standard for cruisers. Even though the Chief and the Chieftain share a lot of componentry, they actually feel very, very different. The Chieftain is Indian's all-new bagger. Everyone expected 1 motorcycle would come out of Indian in the very first model year, maybe 2. Nobody expected 3. The Chieftain goes into a category that's incredibly hot right now. We call it the bagger. It's a really practical motorcycle. The Batwing fairing does a tremendous job moving air across the body. The watertight, hard saddlebags give you some place to put your stuff for a camping trip or just a trip down to the market. As much as I'm enjoying riding this Chieftain and really kind of want to bug out and just go for the border, I'm also really looking forward to flying the Cub again. The Piper Cub is absolutely the touchstone in American aviation. It was used in everything from crop dusting to flight training to moving the family around. Everybody at one point used the Piper for business and for pleasure. The Piper Cub is simplicity at its best. It's a big wing, it's a decent-sized engine, it's a fuselage for 2, no frills, just let's go fly. For an airplane that looks so old and historical to come out of this manufacturing facility is a bit of a surprise. In fact, Cubcrafters has completely redesigned the airplane. It's got a very similar airfoil, a very similar steel tube body, and a very similar arrangement of systems to an original Cub, but it actually shares nothing with the original Cub. The red and gray airplane is the Carbon Cub. It's the company's high-performance version of the revitalized Cub. It's got a big engine, and it's strong, and it climbs like crazy. The traditional yellow-looking Cub is the Sport Cub. Little less horsepower, little less performance, but every bit a traditional tail-dragger utility airplane. Rip up! And both, there we go.
Okay, avionics master on. You have the plane.
It's been a couple of years since I've flown a Cub or Cub-like airplane, so I was just a little bit nervous, especially with as much performance on tap.
Water when ready.
Watch me like a hawk. I'm rusty, all right?
No problem.
Okay, here we go. Speed off the blue.
Your plane. Full power, stick forward pretty good. 1001, 1002, you're flying. Milk the flaps off slowly. Pull back a little bit. There you go. VY is 70 miles an hour.
You know, flying and motorcycling are an awful lot alike. The vistas you get from an airplane from 50 or 100 feet are absolutely fantastic, completely fill the soul. It's a certain kind of freedom. You imagine that you're a bird. I mean, that's why we fly, after all. It's so similar to what you get on a motorcycle. You're there with the atmosphere, out in the elements. You smell things as they happen, and you're just a participant in it. And boy, what a great pair of perches these are.
Right now we're just spooging along here. 2150 RPM, very low power for this engine. 80 miles an hour, just looking at the trees. The beauty is if I need to get around some terrain, power comes up, nose comes up. There's 2,000 feet a minute, easy peasy. And you're over whatever it is you thought you might run into.
It's an awful lot like the Indian, where you roll it on, don't even think of downshifting. It's got enough power for every situation. That is so gratifying. You're never really searching for the power band. Just as dealing with a tricky road on a motorcycle, flying formation in two aircraft, it's a huge challenge. You're working in three axes, everything is moving constantly, the air currents push you about, and you have to be absolutely precise. The rewards are fantastic. Done well, there is nothing more gratifying than a good formation flight.
All right, be awake.
Flying around is one thing, but the true challenge of a pilot, and really the airplane too, is the landing. And the short answer, hell yeah. That was a nailed landing. I'm pretty happy about that. Well, that was fun. Spent an entire day riding the Indian and flying the Cub. And getting these two together brings out something very, very interesting, that you can have vehicles designed with complete modern technology, but wrapped in styling that's evocative of very old motorcycles and very old airplanes, and it all works. And part of that is the performance. Because of the modern technology and the modern manufacturing, these things work really, really well. So you have the best of both worlds. You got a bike that looks fantastically old, you got an airplane that looks nostalgic, but they both work like modern machines. That's the best combination you can have.